Records is here with Aaron Odum. How are you doing today?
Very good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. Still too early to tell though, but
Just really getting the day started.
so tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm originally from Marlborough, Massachusetts. So I grew up in the greater Middlesex County, Worcester, and Boston area. But I live in Cocoa Beach. So I'm in Florida now. I've been out here for the past couple years. And yeah, I basically I grew up, a pretty average life, not really gonna sugarcoat it or anything. I ended up going in the army when I was about 20. I did about 3 years in the army. And the entire time I always pursued music, and my inspirations were always like conscious hip hop. So like um Talib Kweli, Nas, Mos Def, you know, back then it was a lot of like Busta Rhymes and just people who actually mastered their craft and didn't really take it lightly. So I grew up, I'm 32. Um, so I have a lot of influence from the 80s and 90s, and that's like my foundation. But I'm really inspired by like people like J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar and people who decide to use their platform for greater things, not just to make money and, cater to like, the negativity just so that they can make, $1 million,
I got you. So when did you move to Florida? 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
Is it a good move or a bad move?
I think it's a good move. Especially because like Boston, Mass doesn't really have a cohesive music scene, and like New York was only 3 hours. So before I moved, I was actually like making trips out there. It was only a 3 hour drive. So I was doing a lot of stuff like that. But a lot of my family is in Florida. They moved from Massachusetts, like, and my sister, and so, and I had actually lived out here before in Miami, and so I already kind of know that scene out there, and I'm closer to Orlando, which has a really good music scene. So, and then Atlanta is actually a 6 hour drive, 6 or 7 hour drive, I would say. So I think it's better for me out here than it was back in Massachusetts for sure, because it wasn't really, nobody really wanted to do things correctly, in my opinion.
Yeah, I got you. So was music something you've always been as a little kid?
Yeah, since as far as I can remember, I was always writing poems. It was poems back then, because I was young, so I didn't really know about rap when I was really young. And then it grew into just like writing verses and trying to be cool for girls and write them like little love verses and stuff like that. And then honestly, I had got introduced. I used to do a lot of freestyles. Freestyling was my thing, like off the top, actual on the spot freestyles. And at one of my birthday parties, one of my friends was like, yo, my friend records, you need to meet him. And when I met him, I just started recording songs and I just never let go.
So how many albums do you have out?
Right now I have let's see, Change the World, which was the first one I put out. That's my first project. I wouldn't say they're an album. They feel like an album, but they're more on a mixtape, I would say.
Or are they,
But what was that?
or are they more like an EP?
Um, well, no. I mean, the Change the World is technically like all original songs, but it's not like my debut album, you know. So I was experimenting for a while at that time, and all of those songs were kind of geared toward. I dropped that in 2013, and that was kind of geared towards like the radio. you know, and just trying to put a different message on the radio. So after that, I had dropped the actual mixtape called Secrets in Plain Sight, CITE for sight. And that was like a really underground feel. I used a lot of Lewis Parker beats from a long time ago because I'm very influenced by boom bap and all that. So I went really, really deep with the message on that. And yeah, so that was 2014 time frame. And I had just came back from living in LA because I had went out to LA. I was performing on Hollywood Boulevard for a while. I met R.A. the Rugged Man out there, and we actually formed a relationship for a few years after that. But then I dropped a bunch of singles, and then my last project is called Illuminary, and that was 2018, I believe I dropped that one. So that's my most recent project with Derez. He's a Brazilian young Jedi, I like to call him. He's from the younger generation, so he's just picking it up super quick, producing and making songs. And he's actually got his own following, and he's doing his thing, so it's really good. But yeah, I'm really focused on dropping singles right now. My last single is called Goddess, and yeah, it's really just a love song, really. I mean, just to feel good, like just honoring the divine feminine out there. So
That's cool. Uh, now, do you buy your beats, or do you make your beats?
Yes, you make your beats.
So I work with a few producers over the past few years. Derez is one of those producers. I recently started producing. So there are songs that I've been working on that will eventually come out that are produced by me. But it's something that I've always had my hand in, but I never really like took hold of. And in the last couple of years, like being down here, I just started producing and getting into it and starting to like feel out my vibe and my process. So that's definitely a part of what I do.
So you have your own studio?
Yeah, I'm my own studio.
Well, that makes a
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's it's a home studio. And over the years, I've built many studios in many places. So I kind of just picked up like, what is the most cost efficient but effective way to do it at home. And then I outsource like a lot of my mixing and mastering. I think that's like a big deal. Like you want to kind of be able to focus on the creative process, and mixing and mastering is like a whole nother art within itself. So I've learned about it over time and started to be able to mix my own stuff. But in order to pump it out like more consistently, I actually go through Fiverr and use some of the credible audio engineers on there.
Now, what do you use to mix? What
To make my songs, majority of the time I'm using Logic. But I've gone back and forth between Pro Tools and Logic for the past 10 years. And right now I'm setting up back for Pro Tools again. So
So how's COVID affecting you?
well, hikes or throw your own shows, and that is, that puts a real damper on promotion and income. So for me, I had to pivot like a few times, and now I'm completely set up to do live performances on social. So that's kind of where I've seen, a lot of artists stay afloat and, kind of just still get support as if they were still not, they can't really tour. So, it's not the same, but at the end of the day, it might actually be a little bit better. You're not, paying for flights, hotels, and, transportation and food. So you might be able to capitalize a little bit more, if you can grow your fan base and have them, pay to see you do a real live performance. I know Wiz Khalifa just did one that people had to pay for, and I didn't check it out, but I'm sure it was good. So,
Huh. So have you ever done one that actually got paid?
Have I ever done a show that's got me paid? No, but I have got paid to do verses and features on songs.
So after the COVID's over, you looking to tour?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have. So what I used to do was in Massachusetts, I would throw my own shows. So I would, talk to the venues and the promoters, and then have me as a headliner, and then fill out the ticket with a few other artists that are along the same vibe, and go from there. But see, the thing about it was so I had started doing that years and years ago. That was actually, I want to say, so I got out the army in 2011. So it must have been 2012 timeframe. So I was working with a lot of people that were just handling it, and I wasn't really worried about getting paid at that time. I don't know why. I kind of messed that up. But yeah, so ever since then I've been like moving around, going from LA to Miami, and just really like promoting my social and doing that, and just trying to build an online traction as much as I possibly can. And I went through a couple rebranding that just because I told you about the AO thing. So that kind of threw a lot of things off, and had to start new socials. But I think it's just a long learning process of just marketing, really, and proper marketing. And that's what makes it hard for being a creative, is kind of getting that structure of marketing. Is not the easiest thing.
Right. Did you have any merchandise?
Yeah, I had merchandise. I had shirts that I was selling. I actually still have a few left. But yeah, I'm because I rebranded. I haven't had any recent merch because there wasn't really, a reason. Once we couldn't really do shows and stuff, and that was around the time where I started to really rebrand.
You keep lagging.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. I have full bars. It says I have full bars.
So out of all the songs that you've done, what was your favorite so far?
I think I'm a typical artist where my most recent song is always my favorite. Because I tend to improve every single time I make a song, every time I start to write something new. So I fall in love with my most recent. So I would say Goddess is actually, my favorite, really.
Well, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, you can check me out on AaronOdumMusic.com. All my socials are Legend of Odum on Instagram, Legend of Odum on Twitter, and Legend of Odum on Twitch as well. And let's see, Aaron Odum Music on TikTok. So it's a pleasure talking to you. I appreciate your time.
I hope next time we'll have to do one. We'll have a better internet service.
Absolutely, absolutely. I appreciate you, though. We'll stay in touch.
Thank you very much for
Have
joining.
a good one. You're welcome. Bye-bye.